Welcome to Talking Faith. We are two Episcopal priests who have the joy of working in the beautiful Scottish borders. My name's Lesley Penny.
And my name's Philip Blackledge. Some of the best questions that we get asked are asked by people who don't always go to church. And this is our opportunity to talk those through and to answer them maybe. And if you have any questions that you want us to address in a podcast like this, email talkingthefaith@gmail.com and we'll be happy to get back to you. We're recording immediately after Easter. This is Easter Tuesday. This probably won't go out until next Easter or something like that. I don't know. I mean, we've got to agree on a start date.
Yeah, we do. We did just say after Easter, but we didn't say which Easter.
No, it's true. So we're completely knackered. You know, this is a combination of joy and exhaustion.
Yeah, there's. I think we're more tired than we think we are.
Yes,
and that's the challenge. Yeah. So we just need to.
We're like
focus.
My dog. I have a border collie, and when she's really, really tired, she's like, "Let's do the next thing."
That's it. This might be unwise, but especially the topic that we're tackling today,
yes,
which is quite a big topic.
It's quite a big topic, and it requires a great deal of nuance.
Yes, it does. This might be a high-risk strategy.
So our topic for this morning, this evening, whenever you're listening, so the topic for today, the topic du jour is why don't you talk about the thing I want you to talk about? Which is a question that we often get asked in terms of politics and ecology and, well, anything really. And consequently to that is the stern reminder that churches should not get involved in politics.
That's the other side of the argument, isn't it? No, stay away.
Yeah, absolutely. You shouldn't be talking about stuff like that. You're about faith.
Yes.
And faith is a little box here.
And it sits outside the box of everywhere else.
Yeah, of reality.
And it's lovely. And it's lovely. And it's for people who can't really make it through life by themselves. Yeah. So they have a wee space that they go into.
Yeah. And often that question, as in you shouldn't interfere in politics, is put by people who feel that maybe their politics isn't the one that you will be speaking out.
Yes, that's true. Yes, that's true. That's true. Multiple confessions from...
Please do.
Reverend Penny.
Confession time.
Confession time. First confession. So when you sent me this as a topic in an email, my heart sank completely. And because I know we talked about this originally, and I remember thinking, I don't know if I fancy this subject. And it's because it's not an area that I have thought I have to confess, intently about at all, even having got to my great age now. Now, part of that, I think, is growing up in a working class family who were working their way up the ladder to the land of middle class, if you like. So benefited from the structures and the politics of those days. So we were, I suppose, we fitted into that model. We heard that model as children. We didn't really think outside where we were, if you like. Yeah. And also, I'm a scientist by training. Mm-hmm. And so as a young person, a child, it was science, it was animals, it was...
Lily-livered, namby-pamby, liberal sociology lecturer upbringing.
You've used those words, Pip. I did not go in that direction.
I own them. Yeah, absolutely. My mum and dad were working class, part of the Red Brick University's thing in the 60s.
Yeah.
You remember the 60s when people genuinely had a chance?
Yeah, that's right.
Where university tuition was free. There were lots of, people from the first generation of people to go to university.
Yeah. I was.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the generation.
Yeah. I am.
Yeah. Or
I've come from that generation, but yeah.
My dad did politics and sociology and psychology.
I've got no chance.
And so I was brought up, when things were going wrong in the playground in my primary school, I would genuinely say, you're just subscribing to peer pressure there.
Whereas I was playing horses.
Yeah. Can you imagine how well I went down?
Yeah.
Can you imagine which end of the playground everybody was?
Yeah, so I avoid Philip.
But mum and dad were sort of socialists partly because they felt that they were supporting hanging onto the background a bit.
Yeah.
And dad really didn't want to describe himself as middle class. Yeah. Although, when you're a professor of sociology, there is no other...
He's a professor in sociology?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sociology.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a bit of sort of cultural
yeah,
desire to hang on to that. And I drifted away from a lot of that and sort of explored lots of, I think I've actually voted every colour under the sun,
Sun.
apart from one recently formed colour. The whole milieu that I was brought up in was a question of having a sort of party political
Yeah.
attitude, and I have rejected that for many years because and even now I will vote for a person rather than a party.
I see. Yeah.
In the hope that that person's the right person to do something.
So tell me then about, and the other confession is, I don't know that anybody has ever asked me the question that we're addressing today. I think for lots of reasons, people are far more likely to ask you than they are
Right.
me. Partly also coming from a more evangelical background. I think perhaps that's a less high in the pile topic. So I think, so from your perspective, talk about that question, and it comes at us from different directions.
Yeah, and I think the reason that it's less of an issue with evangelicals is because you probably get it right in a way that we don't.
All right. Well done, us.
I know. You've done a good
How's
thing.
that then?
So I think the liberal end of the church tend to use faith as an expression of their values. And I think the evangelical end of the church tend to use their faith as a way of finding values.
Yeah.
And it's a very subtle difference between those two things. But when you are... Andrew Lang, who's a wonderful Victorian Scottish ethicist, said... A politician uses statistics like a drunk man uses a lamppost, not for illumination, but for support. And you could replace statistics with faith in that.
Yes.
And you sort of use faith as a way of supporting your values.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come to faith because they have a certain value set, and they feel that reflected in the church. And so they feel that this is a community of people who think like I do.
Yeah.
But the difference with that is that my job as a Christian is to encourage people to be as close to Jesus as they can. And although it's a very subtle difference, and although most of the things that people want me to speak out more about, I think are in accordance with those values, when you're proclaiming values and not faith, you're very subtly doing the wrong thing.
Yes.
And the focus shifts, and, the famous definition of a sin is just missing a mark.
Yes.
It's just shifting your focus. So that's why I think we get it more wrong than you do.
The thing I've been challenged probably the most about since I started training, I mean, there's been lots of things that have been challenging, but the awareness that Jesus, the emphasis of Jesus and a lot of the Old Testament, away all your songs and your mad music and all this sort of things, but pursue justice, look after the widows, feed the children. And I think sometimes as evangelicals, we have a passion for Jesus, like we would talk about that in a comfortable way, which sometimes when I'm talking to somebody who's more liberal, they kind of go, oh.
Stop being so enthusiastic.
Yes. What are you talking about? But sometimes I think we've missed out that bit, and sometimes we delegate that bit to parts of the church, perhaps within our own churches, that will do the job. So we might put money into, we will do this, but is following on from the washing of the feet that we've only just 3 or 4 5 days ago thinking about that and talking about that. I wonder how many sometimes of evangelicals we're very reluctant to pursue some of those areas ourselves. It's not been highlighted to us as much.
Yeah, and I think if I do have a criticism of that thing, it's that because the value thing is not in the Christian box, it leaves room for people to, in their real life, to be possibly less following of Jesus's values.
Yeah.
So you do get millionaires who are sometimes millionaires on the backs of unjust working practices.
Yes.
Who declare themselves to be evangelicals, to be Christians.
Yeah. Well, we're watching that happening. In the States, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, it's worth. If you're watching this from the States, it's a different world, your world.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very different place, and faith is a very different thing.
Yes.
It's a different expression of the same thing, you would hope.
It's difficult for people in the UK, and I think you probably know this if you're in the States, it is difficult for people in the UK to understand American politics and how they work. But the fact is, yes, it can allow you to compartmentalize your life a bit more sometimes, that style of faith.
Yeah.
But equally, so the other side of the argument is you shouldn't be. Your faith has no relevance to politics or to the world. It's you just. We haven't said this twice yet, have we? Well, you know how we recorded it. We had no sound.
So I because it's Easter, I pressed record and forgot that I pressed record on the cameras and not on the microphones.
Yeah. And now we can't remember what we've already said.
Now we're getting to the stage where we've run out of the things that we think we've already said.
I don't think we've talked about that idea that your faith should be completely separate from anything to do with politics and in many ways the world.
Yeah. And that's silly.
Well, it's a total...
Yeah.
How anybody can look at the Bible and Jesus and think that that's even an option.
Yeah. Well, I mean, politics means polis, means to do with people.
Yeah.
And if Christianity isn't to do with people, then what is it?
Yeah.
But if you look at the things that, Jesus was often being levered into arguments.
Yes.
That he didn't want to be a part
Yes.
of. And actually St. Paul, I think, too.
Yeah.
And if you look at him, they tread a
very careful line. I mean, that's actually question 4 on our list, but we could tackle that now.
Oh, right.
We could.
Okay.
No, we could go there because that, I think, maybe starting with how Jesus...
Believe it or not, this has a structure.
Yeah. We're trying really hard with this.
Yeah.
But I think maybe talking about that earlier on is good because Jesus was not political capital P, but he was political in that, that's the world they were moving in. Like everything they did had some form of political relevance, effect, impact, didn't it? You couldn't live in that world and do what Jesus did and not be engaged with it.
And he had Pharisees who were trying to trap him in political questions.
Yeah.
And he had zealots who were trying to make him into the thing that they wanted him to be.
Yes.
So you've got both sides of the question that we're discussing right now in that world.
Yeah. So then, based on the fact that Jesus was involved in all of this stuff, what does it mean? What, as Christians, how are we meant to be engaging with the political aspects? I mean, should we be talking more about it from the pulpit? I mean, the fact is, our churches are full of people from every different political part of the spectrum, probably in both our churches.
Yeah.
Oh, all 3 of them. Did I mention I have 2?
You have 2 because you work harder than I do. Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, what? Again,
if you're listening from America, and why should you be? Why would you do that? In our churches, we have every possible branch of politics. Now, that's just not the case in America as far as I can see.
Yeah.
The things that we've been seeing with Trump and his spiritual advisor, you would never get in this country. No. I mean, I, as somebody who has dedicated my life to the service of God in the church, get a bit squirmy when politicians talk about religion.
Yeah.
And to see somebody equating Trump with Jesus.
Yeah.
Is you would just know that would be the end of your political career.
over here, it absolutely would. Yeah, absolutely would. But nobody, I think, would get to that position high enough in power for that to happen to them because they'd already have been weeded out further down.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
Well, we've kind of reversed the question, but that's that's okay though. I forgive you. It's been interesting watching Kate Forbes, who's was the finance the treasurer in the Scottish government. That's exactly right. She was very open about her strong Christian faith. Comes from the islands of Scotland, so we'll have a strong Presbyterian background, and very open about how difficult that made her life. And also it was in the papers. Her faith was often highlighted in a way that you can't imagine ever happening to somebody who was a Muslim, for example. Which I think is an interesting inequality that happens. Yeah, I think it's probably because people think they know what Christianity is more than they know what Islam is. That's true. Yeah, that's true. I think the big issue that Christians come up when they promote their Christian faith, as it were, are same-sex marriage, really, is the issue. And that's where she got on the hook and where the previous Lib Dem leader, whose name escapes me... There's absolutely no point in asking me. Sorry, Sorry, did he have a dog? He wasn't a cow ovary, so you're not going to know him. I'm not there.
And they got a bit squirmy about that, and they slithered away from it and used a politician's answer for what should have been a religious answer. And if they had said, look, which is true for both of them, I have always voted in favour of this because I believe in people making their own decisions. My personal opinion is different. I think they could have survived that, but they
avoided that.
They slithered away from the question. Which was the problem. But, that's the situation in Britain, where if your Christian faith is not in accordance with values of your voters, you will get voted out.
Yes.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Because if my core beliefs differ from the core beliefs, if I'm going to vote differently from the way that people think I ought to be voting, then they shouldn't vote for me, and that's fair enough.
When you say are you describing yourself as a politician or a priest?
Yes, if I was a politician and was wanting to be elected and said, this is who I am, these are my values.
Yes, and the people don't want those values then. But Professor Wright.
N.T. Wright.
N.T. Wright.
Whose podcast on this subject.
Have I said this twice? Maybe I haven't said this.
Oh, no.
I haven't.
No.
Okay, so my other confession of today is that such was my concern about this podcast and my anxiety. I did quite a lot of Googling of things. And then this morning I listened to a podcast on the way over here. I could only hear sort of 20 minutes of it. And it was Tom Wright being interviewed by Regent College in Canada about his book, which is something like Jesus and the Powers. He's written it with somebody else. It's a really strong book about the engagement of the church, Christians, with politics. I mean, that's what it's about. Right. Unfortunately, I haven't read it. And I couldn't read it in 24 hours anyway.
No.
But he was talking about, it's quite funny. He was interviewed by two ladies who clearly were slightly in awe of him, which I would be as well, and were slightly unable to speak. So when they went to ask the questions, there was a lot of umming and ahhing and oohing and going around the edges. But anyway.
Which we never do.
We have never done that.
Because
we're consummate professionals.
Because I edit us out.
Oh, because you edit it.
As far as I can, yeah.
That's why I don't appear on any of the podcasts.
That'll go.
Yeah. So, he was just talking, though, about the role of the church in doing that, speaking truth to power. The role of the church when society is going awry. And he was referring to people like Bonhoeffer, slavery. I'm going for the big things here.
Yeah.
How, there were multiples of people who stood up and said to society, no, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Well, if we think back, the church in many ways was at the root of education, of health. That's where all of these things that are now government-based and government-run came from the church. Yeah. As, interestingly enough, did football, but we can talk about that on another...
Gosh.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, I am a football chaplain, and so I've been learning about football more than politics.
She looked after a football. It's like she's not a team. They don't want anything to do with it.
I do look after a team, and I have my own top with the team name on it and everything. Yeah.
Sorry.
And but apparently I can't remember if it was Celtic or Rangers, but one of the really big clubs originally had the football teams, and that's where the leagues came out of the churches. Now I need to double check the evidence of that, but that's what we were told when we were being trained to be a professional football chaplain.
Very possible.
Which is what I am.
Yeah.
But the point being, there was a day, and it's not that post Easter, not that long ago, when it was the church that was doing all of those things because of what the church stood for.
Yeah.
Because that's what Christ stood for.
Yeah.
But now, there was a day when the church was doing all these things because of what they stood for, what the church stood for, what Christ stood for, that is now government-based, and the church has become separated from that.
Yeah.
So does the church is actually now the time that the church should be speaking more or more engaged? But what does that look like?
Yeah. Interestingly, when the National Health Service started, William Temple, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury at the time, said there was a great danger that we have outsourced our generosity. Our expression of our values is now housed in legislation, which he agreed with.
Yeah.
But said there was a huge danger that then we retrench in terms of how we find expression to those values.
That's interesting.
Yeah. The interplay between politics and religion is always going to be there.
Yeah.
sometimes more than others. When you have a frenetic political environment, I think it's more and more the pressures are on us to either say a thing or not say anything at all. But we should go back to where Jesus was, I think. We should always
good.
go back to where Jesus
I'm
was.
glad you said that.
Yes. And he had the Pharisees asking question after question. You know, coins to Caesar, for example. And he said, what's on the head of it? Just so you know the story. Just so I can prove that I know the story. I'm a liberal. Don't read that stuff. He said, you know, whose head is on the coin? He said, render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. And he was trying to. I mean, it's not a satisfying answer, I have to say. But what he's trying to say is, stop being on the agenda of the things that are of this world, and start being on God's agenda. And I think Paul does that a lot. I mean, particularly in his, you know, they're asking him minutiae of questions. And he's just saying, just stop. Just don't bother with any of that stuff. Just worship God and sort of let alone. And actually, I think Luther was the same. So there was a big question about church style with Luther. And, you know, do you use incense, for example? And he said, whatever you want. Just...
But as time's gone on, probably a bit like the NHS, as time's gone on, we've lost some of that. We've put Luther's stuff into boxes and things and said stuff that he probably never ever said, and things that we've done that Luther, of course, I now can't remember the name of the other chap, but
Calvin.
Yes,
Zwingli.
Calvin.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would be turning in their graves over, so, you know, things. Anyway, but.
Calvin would be shocked at Calvinism.
But you know, that's right though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You were talking about what so you said go back to Jesus, and we went back to Jesus. Where are we going from there?
Well, I guess it's how we translate that into the modern day. And that can be really difficult when people are so frantic about politics.
And so polarised. And are on social media. Which is, as far as I can see, contaminating our brains to a horrendous extent.
We should do a podcast sometime about the world in which we live, the social media world, because it is incredible and it's very, very different from the world of a generation ago. And we haven't reconciled ourselves to that yet. And it will take a couple of generations, I think
so.
But in that world, everything gets... I don't know if I said St. Ignatius talked about the spiral of desolation. Where everything becomes more urgent and quick, and he described it as sort of dry and tight. So if you imagine yourself, the spiral of consolation, imagine yourself sort of sweeping down a beautiful flight of stairs, you know, and it's spacious and open. The spiral of desolation is like climbing up a spiral staircase that gets tighter narrower. And there's people behind you that you're trying to escape from. You know, and it feels that we're in that desolate spiral just at the moment. And so everybody thinks everything's urgent. And we need to talk about things urgent. Now, if you believe in life after death and that this is just, you know, this is a way of exploring God's creation on earth, you don't need to be frantic about things. And actually being frantic about things achieves less. It
does. But I wonder if the word urgent still applies to some of the things that are going on in our world. If we're praying, thy kingdom come, on earth as in heaven, as in today. And I am moving into the land of Tom right here again. There is that concept that the church is called to bring the kingdom of God into the world. You know, not just for the church, but to be the carriers of the kingdom of God in the world now. So although we know we have a future hope, that's based on a new creation of our world, and we are walking that path now. Now, so my question stroke thought is, although I think we need not be frantic, I wonder if there's more of an urgent need now for people who carry the Christian faith into all of those areas of political influence. So whether that's in the core of politics, whether it's in the core of education, the health service, universities, is part of a much bigger challenge, I think, to Christians to be people of influence in the world. Like world, capital W world. I think
you're right. And I think the issue that we face is that we have been brought up with a church that was politically powerful.
Yes.
And so we're trying to, and actually the question derives from, you have power, you're a priest, you have power, you get to speak to people. Why don't you say a thing? You're a bishop. Why don't you
Why don't you do it?
Why don't you get political?
Yes.
And actually, that world doesn't exist
No,
anymore.
it doesn't.
And actually, that
it's
gives
not
us
right.
an opportunity,
It
because
does.
that world didn't exist for the apostles either.
No, it didn't.
And what they did was the strength of their feeling and the strength of their argument, and something else which they had, which I think that whole world of opposing values desperately needs, which is that they were good news.
Yeah. In every sense of the word. And coming in with the good news of the gospel, also, when you've lost that sort of a focus, that's why all the energy goes into all these polarized spaces. Do you not think? Because it's got nowhere else to go.
Yeah. People feel alive when they're outraged.
Yes.
And there is a sort of false authenticity of bad news. Bad news feels more
the drama
real.
of it, and the bringing people with you, and the more of us that are outraged together, the better.
We can do something.
We can actually do something. And there is that concept, and that kind of mob, it's not violence, but it's intellectual violence, isn't it?
Ooh.
Ooh. Is it? I think it is a bit.
Get you, sociology.
That was...
I think there's a reality to that, and people feel energized when they're protesting against things. In particular, the planks and splinters things.
Yeah.
It is far easier to object to something that somebody else is doing than to do a thing for yourself.
Yeah. So you're talking about the scripture that talks about, you're spotting the plank in someone's eye.
Yeah.
But you've not taken
the speck in someone's eye.
Speck in something's eye, but you haven't taken the plank out of your own eye.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me there. I was back to front, but I'm glad you corrected me, because that was,
Thank you for appreciating my correction in such a way. She hates me.
I don't. What do you think about the fact that some of these issues are related to our complete inability now to have a measured debate?
I found that with Rowan Williams when he wrote an article about Sharia law, which got massive limits,
right?
To the extent that all the questions that the press had were answered in the article that they were misquoting, or contradicted.
Yeah.
All the claims that they were making were contradicted by the article.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's almost impossible to say anything nuanced in public.
Yes.
And that's a real problem for Christians, because we have to be nuanced in public. But I think the big question for us is how we are good news and say things that other people will oppose.
And what's the answer to that question?
Yes. Yes. How... sorry, what I meant was to do the Anglican thing again.
Good. Thoughtful.
Yeah, because I don't know.
Come back to us.
But I think that's partly where we go wrong with the values.
Yeah.
Because, if you wanted to... We both live in the beautiful Borders countryside.
We do,
if you wanted to do something wonderful, you would encourage people to plant more hedgerows.
Yeah.
But what people want to do is protest against fox hunting, which does no harm.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from the foxes, it's a bad thing that people do, and we hate the idea of animals suffering.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the fox hunts that I've ever known about, if they find a fox, they're very lucky. I mean, they basically, it's, they normally happen on Boxing Day. It's like posh drunk people riding fences. But, that doesn't ecologically do a lot of harm. The destruction of hedgerows does massive harm.
Yeah.
But where are the protests saying... And
also things like the things that I'm talking about eco matters. We'll come on to the...
I'm going to be absolutely creamed by that.
Well, yeah, you are. But the point you're making is that people get so engaged in something that becomes their absolute raison d'etre. All their anger's focused on that, whilst other things are happening that in many ways are impacting more people. Yeah. There's awful things happening in this world that impact so many people, and yet we don't put our energy into them because we've no idea what to do about them, but we feel better if we've got something we can focus on. Do you think that's a possibility?
The promises that were made by the Westminster government on both Labour and Conservative side about planting trees, if they were delivering on those promises, we would have a tree in this room, because there almost isn't the landmass to be able to plant the number of trees that they promised to plant.
Yeah.
But it was just a flag. We're on your side.
Yes. And it was a thing that people have got into. Yeah. And so we can see it.
And it's like, are we picking teams or are we picking values that are an expression of
Oh.
our faith.
Yeah.
And that's a real issue. And I think, to me, the character of the Acts of the Apostles, we're in the post-Easter season. I reread the Acts of the Apostles after Easter
Okay.
every year.
Okay.
And the character of the apostles in that book, I think, is the character that we are called to be as
Be like,
Christians.
Yeah.
And if I have one plea, I did make this plea on Easter Sunday, read the Acts of the Apostles. It's like P.G. Wodehouse.
Yeah.
It's the Muppets do God. They have no plan. They've got sort of that forwards energy all the time.
Yeah.
They're inveterately cheery. They're, even when like Stephen dies, which is a really, really tragic thing, it has that quality of hope and beauty to it, which means that nothing is going to stop them.
Yeah.
And they changed the world because
They
of
did.
that.
It's really interesting. Pip said to me a long time ago, well, I mean, in the last 2 years, about reading Acts, and that you often tell people who are exploring faith to read Acts first.
Before the Gospels.
Before the Gospels.
Yeah.
And I've started saying to people, read Acts. Because I think even for people who are thinking about the church, often the church doesn't look anything like Acts in many ways.
Yeah.
But look, this is how it all started. And even if they get their heads around the transformation of Peter, I mean, that in itself, if God can transform Peter, he can transform anybody.
Yeah. I mean, or Paul.
I mean, I hadn't forgotten Paul. I just had, I was still in chapter 1 and 2 there in my
But
head.
what I love about them is that they didn't change their personality. We were saying that sin is just a missing of the mark.
Yeah.
They just changed the mark. People have this thing where he was Saul and became Paul, which is rubbish because that's just the Greek version of that name. Angry and yeah. Do you not know that?
No. Okay, go on, keep going.
Okay, and before his conversion, people say he was, angry and vengeful and obsessive, and and then after his conversion, he was angry and vengeful and obsessive. Yes. But he just reorientated himself into this absolute steamroller of joy.
Yeah, but that's what was needed.
Yeah.
So God's not going to change your personality. Like, God's going to use your personality in the midst of sharing the gospel, and that's the other thing that we forget, and we try and squeeze ourselves into boxes of what we think we should be like, when actually we are who we are, and God uses us as we are. But that's the same whether you're in the church or in your job. That's,
and I guess that's where my biblical interpretation comes from, because he was so he was constantly trying to say, just stop doing that thing and do this thing.
Yes.
So we often extract doctrine from Paul and sort of extract theological teaching as though he was talking about an eternal belief.
Yeah.
And there are places where he does that.
Yeah.
But
Romans is, Yeah. But some of the other letters are, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Could you please stop?
Yeah. Just.
Why are you worrying about that one?
We want a solid ground for faith.
Yeah.
And we like to have this sort of vista of like a manifesto for Christianity.
Yeah.
Because it gives us a sort of footing. We say, well, this is what it says.
But yes.
And the danger of that is that you lose the living God
in the midst of it.
That of which, Paul's life was an expression.
Yeah.
But it was an expression. It wasn't it.
Could you see my face went slightly into where is he going with this?
Yeah.
But no, I'm with you. I'm with you. And we have creeds, things that we hold as true, and we have these areas that are much more. And again, it's the word nuanced, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we're not good using that because it makes us nervous.
Yeah.
Because we want it to be, this is what it is.
And because the online world is so vicious.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Please be nice to us, because we're both quite
so amateur.
Well, amateur and I was going to say not incompetent. That's not the right word. Amateur and vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
Well, vulnerable. We are.
Cut us and we bleed. But because the online world is so frantic, there's such a danger of going from what do we believe into what can we sell, or what can we successfully argue.
What can we sell, and how loud can we make our voice to squash the voice that's saying the opposite from us?
Yeah.
Or how loud can I criticise this comment? The comments after the Archbishop of Canterbury was what happens to an archbishop when they start out being the Archbishop of Canterbury?
Consecrated.
Consecrated.
Yes. Yeah, consecration.
Consecration. I mean, some of the stuff online was appalling. Okay, fair enough, not everybody's happy with a female Archbishop of Canterbury.
Right, yeah.
But some of the stuff that was written by those who oppose it, but that's the world we live in now.
I'm not sure it's ever not been the world we live in, but I think that's a new and particularly virulent expression of it.
The difference being, though, that because we have social media, people see it.
Yeah.
40, 50 years ago, you could be saying that, but you'd be saying it in a very small room and maybe in a newspaper.
Yeah.
It's out there. And if you've got, if you're a big name or a big church or a big whatever.
How do we become good news? How do we know the difference for when we are supposed to speak out about things? And there are times when I have felt I needed to speak about things.
Yeah.
And where do we find the balance between speaking out and doing it in a loving, joyous way?
Yeah, because it's that combination. How do we know when God is asking us to act? I think the things that deeply move you, in my experience, are often the things that you are being called to do something about.
Mm-hmm.
So if something makes me cry, because I'm not a great crier, I'm like, oh, why am I crying about that?
Yeah.
And then that would cause me to think, well, maybe I could do something here, or whether it's personally or whether it's what should our church be involved in. I think from a church point of view, some of it's where you are. So we're next door to a wonderful school that does a breakfast club, and they're struggling to fund the breakfast club. I mean, it's basically next door. We can do something. So we did an Easter collection. I actually don't know how much we raised, but that's going over for the breakfast club because that's an obvious thing that we can help. And then you're locally being local church within.
Yeah, but nobody's ever going to say, you shouldn't be being nice to children.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay, you see, you're wanting a bit of a higher powered one, aren't you?
Well, there are times when I felt I need to speak about something which could be opposed.
And how, in the form of preaching or in the form of writing or in the form of going somewhere?
So
now that you've burst my bubble of joy over the breakfast club.
My go-to thing is to do a thing rather than preach about a thing.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of times when I went on a peace march, and that was a joyous thing. That was a really good joyous thing. It was the Make Poverty History back in the day, and I was the curator of the cathedral at the time.
Right. Okay.
And because I have friends in the BBC, they decided to do the Radio 4 morning service was a recording of the service that we had in the cathedral on the Saturday.
Okay.
And it was in the early days of email and PDF files and things. So I basically sent out an email to all the singers I knew saying, could you come and sing? Here's the music. And forward this to as many people as you could. And I thought, we could get 20. We had like 80 singers.
Wow.
Turn up, bursting out the choir stalls, and I was conducting because I think it would be just a group of mates, and instead it was
80 semi-professional singers.
Yeah, it was there was a lot of fun there, and then we went on the march and sort of marched around the town, and there was another which was an end to the nuclear weapons at Faslane, and I went on a march about that, and that was joyous because there was a group of us singing at the front, and there was this lovely sort of teenage guy with a living his best life with a guitar, long floppy hair, leading. I remember saying to him at the time, don't make this your thing. Find new things as well, because I thought, I've seen so many people who are in their 50s still doing that because they've lived on the buzz of their teenage years.
There's a time where you have to stop that.
Yeah. So my tendency is to do things. Rather than speak about things, but sometimes I've been compelled to speak about things, and that's normally when I feel I've been distancing myself from an issue, mainly out of cowardice rather than staying on to God's values. I guess the most recent one of that was when we were going through the same-sex marriage debate. And I've always been scripturally on the side of that. I think, that's probably what God wants us to do, to marry couples who are in love regardless. But I was in a position before where I was trying to hold back because for the sake of the unity of the church. And I thought that by sacrificing my desire for this to happen, I was being self-sacrificial. And actually what I was doing was punishing those people for whom it would affect. And so I did. And a lot of my congregation didn't like it. But that was one occasion when I felt this isn't about my opinion versus their opinion. This is about something about the value that God has put into every human soul. And I know that there are profound and significant differences about that issue with people that I love and respect. So it's not that I'm opposing them, but there's a time when you can say what you believe, and then it's up to that person as to whether they think that you're attacking them or that you're just pushing a different version of those values. You know?
Yes, and that's what's tended to happen in the church over this issue, attacking the people rather than the view, or not. I don't think there's any need to attack anybody, but to appreciate that there are reasons why people think the way they think.
Yeah, the dismissal on so there's a dismissal on the one side saying, well, you're just going with the vicissitudes of the society and not sticking to the truth.
Yeah.
And the other one is, you're mean.
Yeah.
You're just spiteful, and you don't care about people.
Yeah.
And both of those are lies based on that
polarized thinking,
based on the idea of we know what God thinks.
Yeah.
We have set that in stone in terms of a political agenda. If you don't agree with our political agenda, you're not on the side of God.
I mean, I find this quite uncomfortable to talk about. Yeah. But I think because it's such a difficult area, we're still called as a church to love each other as a church, the body of Christ.
Yeah.
Somehow, in the midst of these things that are so different so part of this question about the whole concept of moving into sort of political, sociological. That's the limit of my 2 words. But
and the other one.
And when you move into that area, you have to carry an awful lot of grace with you somehow. Yeah. You do, and you have to. One has to carry your belief, your position, but with grace. And I think perhaps if we could learn to be a bit better at that generally as Christians, not only would we be better in the church, we'd be better in the world. Moving more into the concept of, you were talking about going on marches and things like that, and I've done March for Jesus, Graham Kendrick, probably 1990. We sang Shine Jesus Shine yesterday at the end of the Easter service. Fantastic. There's also this thing about the impact of the individual, how much impact an individual can have in their place of work. So I know a friend of mine who's working in the whole area of homelessness and in the area of changing the law, so legislation, which in some ways, goodness, that's very low key. You're shut in an office, you're on a computer, talking to politicians. But she's actually been at the core of massive. Significant changes to legislation for homelessness. Wow. But her name will never be on a poster somewhere. But that's what she's done. She's changed lives through doing that. And I wonder if we underestimate the calling in our lives. On the odd occasion that I speak to younger people, I suppose one of the things I say to them is never underestimate how God might use you to change something that you never thought you would be involved in. And I often say to them, if it's the thing that makes you cry, engage with it. Because people think, I can't make any difference to that, but they can. Having that skill to be able to do that is important, and not going in as I'm a Christian and I think this is how it should be done. Yeah. But just that if people see something in your life that lines things up.
That's massively important, and far more gets done by the humble expression of your faith than going on a march where you're wanting 50% plus 1 vote.
Yes.
Because you embed conflict, and that's what we see in the Church of England largely when it comes to the general synod votes on anything contentious, which is where people make speeches that their side applaud. It makes them feel better about themselves, and it makes their side feel better about themselves because they've got some really sort of poetic ways of talking. But it doesn't further the issue because there isn't listening going on. There's preaching going on, and I think that type of preaching is always going to be bad. We probably need to
I think
wind this bit up.
I've done better than I thought I would.
You've done really well. I've been interested. No, that's a good thing.
It's the first time it's happened for him in five podcasts, but that's good. We got there eventually. Usually he's asleep by now.
So in terms of that question, how would we answer somebody who says you should talk more about the thing that I want to talk you to talk about?
It would depend what the thing was. And I think I would do actually there's one time that's happened to me, and it was a very polarised view about a certain thing. And the thing I did in that moment was I talked about how broad the view is, and that actually sometimes as a church we have to hold quite a broad position on some things because everybody in the congregation is. But if it was something that was clearly the feeding of the widows, the wars, the things that you could actually speak out against and know from your faith, this is, I think I would be thinking about if somebody, because also sometimes God uses prophets to come to you and say, no, you never know. If somebody walks in the door and says something to you, you have to listen and filter and pray and decide what to do with it.
That's a really important point, that prophets make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I have to allow myself to feel uncomfortable when somebody's saying, you should jolly well talk about this thing.
Yeah.
I have to listen to that, because if nobody's saying that, then there's a lack of interest.
Yeah. Yeah. And the temptation is just to switch it off or to go,
Yeah.
But actually, somehow that's how God moves us. And, there's never really been any popular prophets in the Old Testament, I don't think.
No, they didn't have a good time of it
No.
at all. Really good first point, listen to the prophets. Also, the nature of priesthood is reconciliation. So we have a tendency not to want to make people feel uncomfortable unless we're on very sure ground.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need to make people feel uncomfortable.
And I think you can do that once you're established with a congregation who trust you.
Yeah.
I think if you go in all guns blazing on some sort of issue early days, but once people know, this doesn't happen very often, or this is coming from a place.
So that's the third thing, maybe, which is that we have to get away from the idea that we are structurally powerful.
Yeah.
And actually use charism and hopefully the Holy Spirit to say something, rather than, I'm your priest, you should listen to what I'm saying.
So I have had the occasional experience, not so much on the political area, but where there's been something I think I've been meant to say, and I've stood up to preach and thought, I can't say that, it's totally bonkers. And I've not said it. And as I've started to preach, I found it almost impossible to preach the other thing that I'm now trying to preach, to avoid preaching the thing that I feel I should say.
Yeah.
And it's like that. Is it Jeremiah who says, it's burning in me? I have to say it.
Yeah.
And then I've gone back. It's happened twice to me, and I've gone back to the thing that seemed bonkers. And then one was in the context of talking about angels. It was the right thing for the people in the room. But I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
Make me. And maybe that's the same if there was a cause that hit you like that, that you were resisting because it felt, but I think you would actually sense that I'm going to have to say this.
Yeah. So we've got prophets, listen to prophets. Sometimes you've got to push yourself away from your reconciling opportunities because sometimes we're called to make people feel uncomfortable. Listen to what God is telling you to say, which is the wisdom thing, which can be really, really difficult. Cool. My other one would be trust the Holy Spirit in the congregation. Yeah. Because if they say something that you object to, generally speaking, they'll be okay with that. Yes. We think we're going to break the church by saying about a thing that people will oppose. And if we just kept battering on about it, probably. Yeah. But, if we've got those diligence checks and that desire to keep a church whole, then I think people tend to trust you even if they can't get along with your expression of value.
No, I think that's very true. Well done for taking that to 4 points, like in an organised fashion. That was really good.
I know. I didn't.
That was good.
Well, before I was talking to you, I didn't have those 4 points. Yeah. That's very good. Well, I think that's as far as we can go on this one. So if you want your priest to say something and they think they ought to, and you're frustrated with them, then this will have been really irritating. Yes, it'll be really irritating. Take them a cake. If you're going to go and say to your priest something that's difficult for them to say or whatever, priests always generally respond better to some form of food. Bribery. Oh, food. Food, yes, that's what I meant, not bribery. I think we should stop. I think our Easter hysteria is kicking in. So that's all from talking. Our question of the week, which we forgot to do. So this is an edit in. Because it's Easter Tuesday and this was just an insane idea. Yes, but never mind. To do this, our question of the week is theme songs. Theme songs. This is good. So I remember having a conversation with one of the bishops in the Scottish Episcopal Church as to why each bishop should have a theme song. So we're going to expand that. Sounds like really dangerous ground. We're going to expand that to some of the models of faith throughout the ages. I just had such a good idea, but I'm not going to say it out loud. Go on. We should do our own. Oh. What would you'll need to let that sit in my head for a minute. Okay. We'll do that after. We'll do that afterwards. Okay. So we're going to think about why nobody knows, but we're going to think about theme music for entrance music. Imagine coming into a talk show. Yeah, big absolutely. Talk show. Terry Wogan in the days gone by. Yeah, and they do this sort of small jazz orchestra version of the theme song. And somebody's usually wearing
headphones in the band.
Yes, yeah.
That's usually what happens.
Where
And they've
they
often got bow ties and velvet
They
jackets.
do, yeah.
Right, that's where we are.
So that's where we are.
Yeah.
Moses.
Okay.
You've been doing your due diligence.
Actually, I had to do due diligence because I had to think about it, and I also employed a 23-year-old to assist me with some of this because
this is youth assisted. This is not
youth
fair.
assisted. This is not just so. I had Light My Fire, Pretenders.
For Moses.
Yeah. Well, the fire, the burning bush,
bush.
Are we allowed two?
But very possibly, yeah.
Have you got any? Are you going to sing it? You're going to sing it.
No, I'm not going to sing it. I'm just going to name it because I'm concerned about copyright issues. But let's see how this goes.
Let's Take Off Your Shoes, B.B. King.
Yes, very clever.
That's my Moses ones, right? Go Moses. Yeah. Go Moses.
Oh, are we both doing both?
Oh, are we both doing both?
Okay,
okay. No, sorry. Well, we don't have to. Will you do...
Mine was sort of slightly more esoteric.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I wasn't sort of thinking quite so literal, and now I'm feeling a bit thrown.
No, great. Go esoteric.
Please
go esoteric. This is why we're doing this together, because this will be exactly why we're different.
I guess the Tippett version of Let My People Go.
I knew it.
With Paul Robeson, I guess. That would be
Excellent.
some liberation. But that's not esoteric.
Do you want to sing a wee tiny bit of tune?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. But look up. The Michael Tippett wrote an oratory called I've slipped into nerd. I've avoided it all podcast. Michael Tippett wrote a brilliant thing called A Child of Our Time, and in it are 4 spirituals.
Okay.
8 parts, luscious.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Let My People Go.
Okay.
It's phenomenal.
And I've got the Pretenders.
You've got the Pretenders.
Was it not the Pretenders that sung Light My Fire?
No, that was the Doors.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe they did a cover. Maybe they did a cover.
Alive. Mark Bolan was.
Oh, you're right. It's the Doors. Yeah. Where did it? Oh, the Pretenders must be for another one, right? Keep going. Keep going.
Who we got next? Okay, we've got Martin Luther.
Let you go first.
I've forgotten. I hadn't really actually thought about answers. You go first. Have you got? So
you're expecting me to give all the answers to the questions that you've put?
No, not necessarily.
You've got to have faith. Yeah.
George Michael.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'd get on.
That would be all right.
They get on like a horse on fire.
But that song would work.
Yes.
Or I'm a Believer. Neil Diamond.
Yeah. I was thinking something more I don't know why.
Yeah,
but this came to me.
Okay.
The theme from Black Beauty. I don't know why.
Oh.
Da, 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 da,
oh,
da. I got Martin Luther. He was, I don't know why.
As he came down the stairs. Black Beauty was quite something. Martin Luther.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I don't know.
I think that would probably work better with Terry Wogan than my one.
Oh, we see. Right, I thought Terry Wogan's theme music should be Martin. My theme from Black Beauty. Okay.
What did he do? He did the one about the band.
Yeah. Now, Mother Teresa.
Right, that's right. Keep me on.
Keep me sandals in the bin.
Keep me on. Keep me on track.
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa. All You Need Is Love. Boom.
Gosh, yeah. No, that's best. That's a beauty. I've used that as a hymn.
Mm.
George not George Michael.
George, the other George.
George Sing.
Yeah, George from the Beatles. George.
Ringo. George. That's terrible.
Paul. George. Is the answer Jesus?
Yes. George Jesus. Who said about that they thought it would be a bit of free publicity for God.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because they were doing all these. There was a big satellite link up, and he said, and they had all the Dutch doing the clog dancing, and all these sort of things. And BBC asked us to do something because that's all that was what the Britain was like in the 60s, and said, and we thought we could have a bit of free publicity for God because it was his notes and we just put them in the right order. So that was why he wrote all You Need Is Love. That's a really good one from Mother Teresa.
Yeah, sorry.
You'd hope so.
Where are you?
Where am I with
George with Mother Teresa?
With Mother Teresa, I was thinking something a bit more culturally appropriate.
Okay.
And there is a a Bangla song, which I'll put in a link, which
Okay.
I was listening to, and I thought I could just see her rocking out to it.
A Bangla song.
Bangra song, sort of Hindu
Oh, okay.
dance thing.
Okay. Very good.
But I'll put a link to it because I can't remember what it's called now.
That's good. Was that our Oh no, we've got one more.
And finally, you both, all of us will be relieved that this is soon coming to an end.
Yeah.
We thought in deference to the new
Sisters are doing it for themselves.
So in deference to the new Archbishop of Canterbury, we should probably have told them who it was before we told them the theme song.
Sorry. I was so excited about that when I got in there too quick.
Yeah.
Sarah
Mullally, who's can never remember. By the time she retires, I'll have remembered it.
Okay.
Sarah Mullally, the new Archbishop of Canterbury, theme song is Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves. I'm going to go completely different on this because I think in terms of a preacher, she's never going to set the Heatherite.
Okay.
That's not her sort of purpose, but she's got a big job to do, and I suspect she can do it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with something dynamic and bold. The theme from Hawaii Five-0.
Hey! Right, you'll have to hum that to me. Oh, yes!
I think if she came into that, it would give her a big boost.
I'm with you on that, actually. That's an excellent suggestion. So I think you win on the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Okay.
I might win on Mother Teresa.
I didn't realise it was a competition.
I think we should make it a competition.
Okay, yeah.
And Martin Luther, maybe a draw.
Okay.
Moses. Well, they're very different.
They're very
different. Maybe one for going in, one for coming out.
Okay. Yeah. So, in answer to our question of the week, it's a draw.
That's nice and fair, though, and even. And I think reflects actually what goes on in this room as a discussion. Well,
absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for being with us. Join us next time. If you have any questions or suggestions or comments.
Kind comments. Yeah.
Email us at talkingthefaith@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.